Baseball season is half over, and we have a ton to talk about. I'm Jeff.
I'm Tom.
I'm John.
I'm Kim.
And this is a Three Old Reds Fans podcast coming to you just a few miles from the heart of Cedarville, the famous birthplace and final resting place of Reds pitching legend Bumpus Jones. As a listener to our podcast, thanks for being one of the most loyal Reds fans ever. We have a 5-star rating on the Apple Podcast app, but we love more ratings and reviews. Leave us a review there or comment on our page on podbean.com or any other podcast app that lets you comment. And follow us on Twitter at Three Old Reds Fans or on Facebook. So here we are, guys. It's been a while. Since before the season, we haven't had a chance to gather. We've got John with us tonight, so we're like 4 Old Reds fans for tonight at least.
I miss seeing you guys. It's good to be back together.
It is. Yes. It's very good. And, you know, we had a little Casano's pizza beforehand, and one of my all-time favorites growing up around here. And John's just been regaling us with his impersonations of Gilbert Gnarly. And
Gilbert Gnarly. G-A-R-L-E-Y. Okay.
If you've been around Cincinnati long enough to remember Gary Burbank, you get that. If not, then I'm sorry, but it was some of the funniest stuff ever on radio.
You do that impersonation for this podcast, we'll get flooded with listeners.
So here's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about first half of the season, and these are some of the things we're going to hit. So stick with us. We're going to talk bullpen, of course, starters. We got a couple all-star outfielders. We've got some rookies that have been playing well. Joey Votto come back from injury, and he's been hitting great lately. Suarez, wondering what's going on with him. We've got injured guys that are coming back after the break, so we'll talk about what to think about that. Trade deadline won't be long after the after the All-Star game, and so I was watching MLB Network today, and we'll see what's going on with that. They talked a little bit about the trade deadlines and different teams, talk about the state of the NL Central and so forth. So those are kind of things we're going to hit on. So so this team is sitting 43-40 right now as we speak. They're just we in the first or second inning here tonight at John's house watching, and they're playing the Royals opening this series on a Monday night.
DH
is enforced tonight.
Winker's your DH tonight.
Oh, well, I love the DHs, you know. So
I will say it's great to sweep the Cubs this past weekend. That's fun. The only team better to sweep is the Cardinals, of course, who we hate. But you know, I got the opportunity to go to the game yesterday. You know how the Cubs fans show up. It just makes me sick.
Yeah.
Blue hats everywhere. And they're starting chants during the game. Let's go Cubbies and everything. So I was so glad to beat them. It made it so that much better.
You know, we have swept every team in the division this year.
Yep.
yeah.
Wow. Read that.
Yeah.
You know, the night I went to the Reds game, they played the Cubs and hit like 3 or 4 home runs and beat them too. And that was fun. So.
Well, I saw a stat that 10 days ago, I think it was, the Cubs and the Brewers were tied.
Yeah.
The Cubs lost 9 in a row. And the Brewers have won
11.
Like 11
they had won 11 in a row.
They lost yesterday, finally.
To Pittsburgh.
To the Pirates of all teams. But Brewers don't have much offense, so they're going to win for so long. So.
Yeah, but they have pitching.
They do. They certainly do right now. And so we got bullpen has been the biggest thing, sort of the bane of our existence for most of the season. But lately, past month, especially in the past 10 days, it's been solid. And bullpens give up runs on occasion, but all those 1-run wins lately in the four-game thing, as Kim said, we walked in. You know, we only scored 8 runs in that series, and we still won it.
Because the bullpen, 10-plus innings for the bullpen, 0 runs.
Yeah, 0 runs.
So we'll take it.
Bullpens have become so important because starters just don't go as long. So, and Antone's still out, right? We don't have him in there.
Yes.
Garrett's 8 or 9 or 10 now appearances without giving up a run.
8, yeah.
Something like that.
Wow.
Other guys doing their jobs. This Brad Brock guy's been pretty good. So, I mean, is there confidence in this bullpen, or do we still have our fingers crossed?
Oh, I don't know why you would, if you were Bell, you have a guy out there and he goes 1, 2, 3 the inning before and you take him out. I don't know why you do that and then take a chance on the next guy out of the bullpen. You don't know what you're going to get. You just had a guy sit down 3 in a row. Let him go out, get another out or 2 or 3. Why take your chance? You just don't know what you're going to get out of the bullpen.
Well, Kim and I were just talking yesterday before they brought Garrett in. Brock had just done the 8th, to your point, got 3 outs. Got the first out in the 9th, and they pulled him and brought, which I thought maybe it was because the left-handed hitter was coming up. No. There was a right-handed hitter coming up, and they brought him in, Garrett in. So and he subsequently threw 6 straight balls.
Yeah, they got out of it with the double play. So,
yeah,
We got lucky.
Sure, it happens. He takes luck. So, there's no doubt about that. Do we need a closer to be the guy going down the stretch? You think does that role need to be defined?
That's a question. Do we need to go get a closer, or do we count on Antone and Lorenzen
And Garrett.
Well,
Lorenzo, wait a minute, I didn't get him till August. So
is it that long for him?
I mean, it could be. Well, maybe not.
I don't know.
No, he's getting ready to make a.
He's in Louisville now.
He's in Louisville, getting ready to make a rehab start. Is that right?
Yes.
So.
I think he went 1 or 2 innings in Arizona. Did Arizona?
Yeah. That's rookie league ball down there.
Yep.
So it doesn't show much. What about starters? That's been a big change. We started with 5 guys. Now we've got 4 of them still. And Gutierrez, who's pitching tonight, has been, but as much as you could expect out of a rookie, I think.
Yeah, good surprise.
Been good surprise. And so that's.
So I know Sonny's back, right?
Yeah.
He pitched really well last pitch, but how do you guys know, how is he physically? Is this just he's back for a few games and he's going to go on to DL again?
You said it, Tom. I don't know if you remember
He's
when
back.
our one podcast, you mentioned, can we count on him with his back? I'm thinking, sure we can. Sure, but no, we can't.
It must be something serious enough that he's just not going to make it through a year.
Yeah, and he did sort of like a Tyler Molly the other day. In other words, he went 5 innings with 102 pitches or something like that, which has not been great. But again, his first outing after missing 10 to 14 days. So, yeah, that's understandable. But to your question, Jeff, the starting pitching has been very good.
Yeah, it's been good.
Very good. Cannot complain. Even Castillo, the past 3 or 4 hours, felt bad for him the other night. Had the no-hitter going, and then the rains came.
Yeah.
But he has been much. Of course, there was only one way to go.
Yeah, he has the next good start. His ERA is almost under 5, so you trending very well. I mean, and then Miley's been our best starter.
Him and Molly.
Very consistent.
Those 2 guys are 1-2, been our best guys. Statistically, Miley's a little better, but yeah, it's not much difference. I mean, they're both been the best pitchers on the team.
And I'll just say this: next year at this time, Hunter Green. I don't know if Lodolo will be there, but where will he be there? I mean, the starting pitching. I know we're talking about this year, but I'm just going to push it forward. The starting pitching seems to be in a good spot.
It does.
On paper.
It really does.
Yeah, Green hasn't been that great in Louisville yet, but I think he will be.
I do too.
I mean, he's like 1-3. I think his ERA's up around 4 or 5, up around 5 or high 4s or something to start after he dominated it in Double-A. But his fastball he has not lost no velocity. If anything, he's gained velocity since his surgery. And he just still needs to learn how to pitch. I mean, he didn't pitch a lot in high school, to be honest. He was mostly a player, mostly a shortstop.
Yeah, I think that's what – I don't think the physical aspects are questionable. It's up in his head. He needs to know how to pitch at the big league level. And, Tucker Barnhart, he's good to have behind the plate for a kid like that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. And Stevenson's getting experience back there too. So
yeah, he's looked great.
And he's a rookie.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
He and Jonathan India both.
Yeah.
Hey, I have to go on record and say it. Tom texted the other night and talked about
Lopez?
Jonathan India.
Oh.
And playing him, and you were in Phoenix, and I said, did Tom actually? I think that jet lag got to you, but
Love to be wrong on stuff like that.
Amen.
So Lodolo has been projected to get to the majors quicker. I don't know if that'll be the case. I think, this whole Kyle Bodie guy and Driveline and all this stuff, the pitching, consultant stuff and looking at how they're doing that, I think is starting to show some fruits. They've got a lot of guys that are pitching well in the minors. They've got, I've been a ton of Dayton games this year, which is high A now. So we're seeing guys there a little farther along. They got a couple guys in their top 20 prospect list. A guy named Graham Ashcraft who just got moved up to Double A. He had 3 starts at Dayton and 2 at Chattanooga in June. Didn't give up a run.
Wow.
There's another guy down there, Eduardo Salazar, who doesn't project as much as big of a prospect, but I've been impressed with him. I think he knows how to pitch. There's another guy named Noah Davis that has pitched well there. So and the relief they've had some guys out of the bullpen be really good. So I think from the things I hear and the discussions I have with people there, it sounds like this thing is starting to make a difference in the organization as a whole. And so what's that going to mean? What's that going to mean down the road? So
I've always been impressed with like the Twins and Tampa Bay being able to all consistently as a small market do well. And maybe, the Reds putting some of the stuff in place will be similar to that.
Yeah, that's the hope. That's the hope. And Dayton, which is usually the Dragons are hardly ever in contention in their league. They got the second best record in the league right now, leading the division. They've been in first place most of the year. Not a lot of power on that team, but it's not a lot. That's not a great hitters league for power anyway. But they've had a couple guys move up, a couple guys that are there that are hitting the ball well. Infielder types, outfielders mostly. Not big guys, but Alejo Lopez type guys. To be honest with you, guys that can hit, and that seems to be what they're looking at. The one guy I really love there is a guy. He's been batting leadoff for them. His name is Jacob Hurtubise, and he was an undrafted free agent last year from West Point, and he undrafted because there were only like 5 rounds last year because of COVID. They only drafted. This year they're going back up to more, not as high as they used to be, maybe 25 or something. I can't remember the number off the top of my head. But because there's fewer minor league teams now, there are going to be fewer draft picks. So, but anyway, this kid, he's the fastest kid in the organization. He's a good bunter, which you guys would love. He's a great on-base guy. His on-base percentage has been up over 400 all season. He walks. He's a left-handed hitter. Outfielder, 5'11", really looks good.
So how is he playing if he's from West Point?
Oh, well, they changed the law. There was a new law signed in 19, I think. They changed the rules.
Yeah, they delay their service.
They delay their service now.
But only on a case-by-case basis because there's a guy from I believe the Naval Academy who has not been released to go play. Now, are you talking the law? Are you talking about federal statute or are you talking about baseball?
It's a federal statute.
Because there's a player with the Naval Academy who's not allowed to play. He has to do his 5 years of service.
Well, I don't know why his reason is, but my understanding was that Trump signed the law in 19, and maybe he graduated before the law was signed. I don't know, but he can delay. It used to be you had to do it all right before you could go play.
Well, first of all, if it's a law, it would be signed by Congress.
Yeah, and Trump signed the bill. Trump approved he signed it into law when Congress.
I need to find out who it is because there is a player for the Naval Academy, a football player who they will not allow to play in the NFL. He has to go his 5 years of service.
Well, I hadn't heard that.
It's a delay, right, Jeff?
Yes.
They delay their service.
5 years.
As soon as he finishes baseball, then he has to fulfill his 5 years.
What if they play till they're 40?
Then he goes into the Navy when he's 41.
Yep.
Or 40. Yeah.
And that's what the guy from the Naval Academy was saying. It's not that I don't want to serve. I do. I just want to wait.
Yeah, well, you're in the prime of your life and you got a
Yeah.
shot.
Yeah, well, you should look that up. There must be maybe there's some sort of exception for him. I don't know, but there's a guy. The Dragons also had a pitcher from the Air Force Academy doing the same thing.
And then you've got the old school Roger Staubach, who did sit out 5
Right.
years. Old school, I guess, David Robinson,
Robinson.
who
Robinson.
did sit out 5
Well,
years.
in the in between time, they did a thing where you could do 2 years of service, go play, and then come back and finish. Now you can put the whole thing off. For a baseball player, you take 2 years off of baseball. That's
Right.
Yes, everything.
that's
Such
everything.
a skill position.
And then he's when he's coming back, he's probably 25, just starting out. I mean, that's
Right.
it really limits his potential to get to the bigs. So anyway, but I like that kid. He's always in the middle of everything.
Cameron Kinley. Cameron Kinley
Yeah.
is the name of the player from the Naval Academy. His appeal was denied, and he has to go to service right away.
Huh. Not sure what the
That
Maybe,
came out.
but-
That came out less than a month ago.
must be some sort of exception on him. I don't know. My understanding
That
was
was football.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It should seem like it'd be the same for anything, but so anyway, so we're a little off track there, but is this team? Here's the question. Overall, offensively, we had the best offense in the division. It's not really that close. And
Without Moose.
does this team have enough pitching? If they continue to be a good hitting team, which no reason to think they won't be, is there enough potential in this pitching staff to close the gap on the Brewers and the wild card thing in the next couple months? What do you think?
Well, I'll go first.
Yeah.
I mean, if Sonny stays healthy and Miley and the rest of the staff keeps pitching like they're pitching and our bullpen, I'm optimistic that Antone coming back is really going to help, and you never know with Lorenzen. But so, yeah, I mean, I think that the hard part is they have to be so good the rest of the year because the West, is going to get both wild cards. And so they have to really be good.
Yeah, they have to catch a West team to get the wild card, or they have to catch the Brewers.
Or the Brewers.
Our record against the West
Is horrible.
Yeah.
Did well against the Dodgers, but the
Yeah.
other two.
We'd be in first place in the East with our record right now.
Yeah, and the Padres thing was like, what are we 5-1 against them or something like that?
lost
or 6-1,
4-2, 1-6.
we're
Well,
1-6.
that was when our bullpen was.
Right,
Well,
but
that first game in San Diego, the bullpen blew it in the ninth inning.
but if you went back and look at all those games, they were in every one of those games. All of them could have
They
gone either
were.
way.
You're
They
right.
just didn't go their way.
You're right.
I mean, it wasn't like the Padres dominated them. They just couldn't find. Padres found ways to win. They didn't. So that's what happened there. So
What do you guys think?
What do you think?
Can
we
we
got
make
enough?
it?
We get,
We're 10-20 against the West.
yeah.
But as far as, I guess here going into this weekend and then coming out of the All-Star break, we're going to know.
Yeah.
Because we got 7 games against the Brewers, and we need to take more than just 4 out of 7.
Yeah. Well, that's the least we have to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that only picks up one game.
So, Jeff, to your question, starting pitching, yes. Bullpen, no.
You think the bullpen's going to be the thing to continue to, in the end?
Played 83 games. Take out the past 10. That's 87.5% of your schedule right there, what they've done.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're the worst in baseball. You take out the last week or so.
Well, when do teams – you remember a couple years ago when the Nats had a horrible first half?
Yeah, they were several games under 500.
Yeah.
And then they just tore it up.
And they won the World Series, right?
So
Yeah.
when do teams like that gel?
That started in June,
Yeah. So,
end of May.
who knows what we're seeing with the bullpen? You just
We don't
never know.
We don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got. I heard Jim Day talking with Hembry here on the pregame. Hembry didn't even have a slider coming into this year. Can you believe that? Major league level pitcher without a slider.
There's not too many of those.
All right.
2 pitch guys out of the bullpen sometimes, and that's about it.
And he's just learning his slider. And I that struck me as a little bit
And
weird.
He's got a lot of experience. He's been around for a while.
Yeah.
I think it is weird to learn a pitch in the middle of the season. I think
Yeah.
that
Well,
So, if you have
I'm sure,
guys like
I'm sure he's
this,
not using it a lot, but
I think that the good thing about our bullpen, I think they have a great attitude. I think they have a team attitude. They root for each other. I think they all want each other to do well. And I think as our team, I think we have a good team atmosphere.
I feel like they do too,
Yeah.
John. It really seems like they all get along well.
Yeah.
it is.
And so
and I think they're gritty too.
And there's something to be said about that in the locker room, and I think that's a good start. You
Yeah.
know,
I agree. I think they're all pulling for each other. I think Bell has done a good job with that. Yeah,
I actually think Winker helps with that.
sure. You got to have player leaders, but you got to have a manager that sets a good tone, and then he's got to let guys like Winker and Castellanos and Votto lead and do that.
Joey's
get
got
out
a
of
lot
the way.
more. Joey has a lot more spunk this year, and he's not being so weird.
He said he's trying to have more spunk. He saw that the rookies enjoying it, and so
Yeah.
he wanted to as well.
Yeah, I did hear him talk about that. I pulled up some stuff here. You're talking about pitching. Overall pitching, we've got the Reds in the National League let's see, this is a 5.22 ERA. That's for relievers on the season. And that's next to last in the National League.
I think this past week is when they moved out of last place
Yeah.
into next to last.
But baseball is what have you done for me lately? And the last how did I do this here? The last since June 25, so the last 10 days, it is 116, second best in the league behind the Dodgers. And I think I was playing with this on Fangraphs earlier, and I think I did it for a month, and they were top 5. The ERA was very good, like around 2. And so,
So who's to say these recent numbers are not changing over to
right.
get us through the end of
Right.
the season?
So there's the whole thing, right? It's like the stock market, right? Past performance does not, right?
Right.
So we got 2 past performances we're looking at. We're looking at the bad and the good. Well, the ugly and the good. The good and the ugly, and the good, and the bad and the ugly and the good. So what's the rest of the season? I think that's the question. Is the rest of the season what we've seen lately, or are they going to revert back to? Is this just the hot stretch every bullpen's bound to have, and they're going to fall back
That's what I
and
was
beat
going
them?
to say.
I don't know.
In a 162-game season, is 7 days enough to say it's a trend? I don't think
7 days isn't, but a month. I mean, the past month it's around 2. Now, does that mean they haven't blown a couple games in the past month? Of course, they've blown a couple games.
Yeah, but that's always
every
gonna happen.
every bullpen blows a
So
couple
if you were
games every
saying
month.
that, what about the first 3 months? That's much more in a trend.
That's much more
as
of a
Bill
trend than a month.
Parcells who used to say, your record's, who you are.
Exactly. But
Again, that's football.
yeah, it's a different sport.
That's right.
It's a different sport.
I'm sorry. What am I thinking?
It's a totally different sport in that way, where things can totally change and be very different. That's the hope. So that's the glass half full thing. The glass half empty is I don't trust this bullpen, and I think my fingers are crossed.
Yeah, all of us.
I think
are.
everybody's fingers are crossed on this. I don't think it's not hopeless. It's like this bullpen's never going to do anything for us, but they've shown it's. I'd rather be coming off a good stretch than a bad stretch. So
It seems like the last, 5 years that the Reds will have, they'll be around 500 or flirting with 500. Then they'll go through, it'll be a week and a half or a 2-week stretch, and they'll just collapse. That's happened so often. That's what we can't have happen.
No,
And
yeah.
I think you're right with the Brewers series. This is a time where they've got to keep performing like they have been.
So are the Brewers all that good? Offensively, they're not good. Their pitching has been great. Can their pitching hold up? What?
Yeah.
All it takes is look what's happened to the Cardinals this year. Their pitching has been decimated by injuries, what all of a sudden if one of those starters goes down or Hader gets hurt? I mean, I'm not wishing that on them by any means, but I mean,
Wainwright's
things,
found the fountain of youth.
Yeah, those things happen, and Burns and Woodruff and especially Peralta have never done it for a whole year at a high level like they are. So, are they having Trevor Bauer type year, or are they going to regress a little bit? And if they don't, that's a team that needs another bat. I mean, they need a corner guy or something on that team. If they're offensively going to get it together.
We shouldn't really be talking about the Cardinals in a Reds podcast, but whenever you have a change or a breakthrough for a team, who's to say that we're not seeing the beginning of something good? Like it would be interesting to talk to a Nats fan for that season. I mean, obviously, it was probably a dream season for if you were a Nationals fan.
Right.
But it changed. They started off lousy. We started off lousy after, the first week of the season
or so.
First
week, yeah.
And who's to say now that we're not turning the corner?
All right. Here's the wild card for me.
You're going to say something negative, I can tell.
I don't think so. The crackdown of Major League Baseball on, I'll just call it the sticky stuff.
Yeah.
RPM's going down dramatically. Garrett Cole's ERA looks like his bowling score. Okay. If our Reds pitchers haven't been using that stuff, and certainly our bullpen has not.
Yeah.
Let's hope not, at least. Does that become an equalizer for us? Because it's the Reds, it's the Reds offense that has been lights out this year. It's the Brewers, let's say, they're pitching, and their bullpen has been lights out. So it's only been about 8-9 days now that they've cracked down on what's going on.
Yeah, a week or
but
two,
the results, Garrett Cole, his results have been horrible. Mm-hmm. Trevor Bauer, I won't say his results have been horrible, but his RPM and such has been not Trevor Bauer-like.
Yeah, it will be interesting. That's an interesting thing. That's just sort of like when they cracked down on the PEDs. That changed things too for some guys. So interesting thought. I mean, okay. So let's move on. Offense. We got a couple all-star outfielders that have just been a blast to watch this year.
Have we ever had two all-star outfielders? Two all-star starters before?
I'd have to look that up. I mean,
we did.
A Rose and a Foster, a Rose and a.
I heard that.
Rose was third
Gus
base.
Bell and
Wally Post, or
no.
he's a first baseman.
Nope.
Klazuski.
Nope.
First baseman.
That's right. He was a
It was
first.
Gus Bell and
Lee May?
No, that's later.
Somebody
Well, there
look
was
it up
that
real
year in
quick.
the 50s when they had like 8 guys make the All-Star team. It's probably that year. Because then when they made them redo the revote and everything, because they didn't let the Reds take all their players because they said the Reds stuffed the box. That's probably when it was.
Did Foster and Griffey Sr. ever make it together?
Well, Griffey played in All-Star games, but I bet he never got voted as a starter.
Yeah, when I heard them talk about that, it was
that
I
far
remembered
ago?
Gus Bell because
Yeah.
David Bell, and I'll if I heard the other name, I'd know who it was.
Yeah. Speaking of Wally Post, you guys know that name, right?
Yeah.
So for those, this is just another Cedarville trivia thing here. So the Cedarville High School baseball team went to regionals this year. In 1945, they went to state.
Did you
read that? So in 1945, they went to state tournament, and they played St. Henry in the state tournament, and Wally Post hit a big home run
For St. Henry?
For St. Henry to beat Cedarville that day. And his brother was the starting pitcher. They alternated as the pitchers, and Wally could hit the ball a mile back then as a kid. They played the game at Ohio State, and I talked to the son of one of the guys who played on the team, and he said his dad said that he hit the ball. Well, they dropped a fly. He popped one up foul, and somebody dropped it, and in that same at bat, maybe next pitch or whatever, he hit one. He said 200 feet over the center fielder's head, and there was no fence. He said that ball's still rolling.
Wow.
And so that was interesting. So anyway, to get off that, so, I mean, Castellanos and Winker, I mean, the numbers, the year they've had speaks for itself. I mean, this team would not be 43-40 without either one of those guys. I mean, if only one of them would have been great to have a great year like first half like that, but we obviously needed both of them. So it's just been fun to watch them.
To make the playoffs, you need some guys to have career years.
You do.
Always,
And be an MVP conversation.
Yeah.
I don't know that either one of them will win it. We got a long way to go, and Tatis is just nuts right now. He's leading the league in everything, just about. So
Last time the Reds went to the playoffs, it was Votto's big year, right?
well, they went
last year.
but
Well,
in
I'm not counting last year.
in a full season.
2012.
And 12 or 13.
Wasn't that his?
Or
wasn't
13.
Was that his
20.
MVP year?
I thought 2010 was his MVP.
Yeah,
Was
I
it?
did too.
Okay, you
2010.
guys are probably
It was
right.
10, and then in 17.
But
or
he still
18,
had a good year.
He had a
yes.
good year. Yeah. He was having lots of good. He was having a good year every year then.
Yeah.
So, and it's been obvious that some other guys are going to have to pick up the pace because those two guys aren't going to hit 350 all year. I mean, nobody hits 350 anymore, and those guys aren't. And Winker's slumped a little bit lately. And
He's 314. I
Yeah.
think Castellanos 340.
yeah, he dropped off a little bit, but I like what I'm seeing out of. Did Votto get a hit tonight already in this
Yes.
game?
Yeah.
He's hitting like 400 over the last week, and he's
Yep.
just he's raking.
I mean, I was glad to see David Bell move Suarez out of the 4-5 hole. He's batting around, six or 7.
Yeah.
Put him Votto in 4-5. Seems to be, okay, let's move guys who are producing. And Votto certainly has been producing since he came back.
He has. And then the rookies, India's been good in the leadoff hole, I think. I don't know what tracked his numbers. I mean, I think early on he'd have a bad game and a good game, so his numbers were kind of
270.
average. But he's
He's
hitting
in the
around
270s.
He's hitting in the 270s, and he gets some key hits. And then Tyler Stevenson has been a real clutch hitter.
Clutch, yeah.
And doing a good job. So it's good to see. We've needed some rookie bats to begin to do something for this team. I mean, young bats at least, because Senzel's been, he's at the MASH unit all the time. So
Yeah, but I'll tell you what, Tyler Naquin has been
he's
Great pickup.
Oh my gosh!
I
That's
remember when
probably-
they signed him, and I'm like, who?
Right.
And
Right.
I've talked to friends of mine who are Cleveland Indian fans, and they're like, they're shrugging their shoulders. Where was this when he was with Cleveland?
Yeah.
He threw somebody out at second base yesterday from the warning track.
Mm-hmm.
The guy's got a cannon. I
Yeah.
mean, it was impressive.
He's he's probably the most underappreciated guy on that team right now. Because I think it's probably because Castellanos and Winker get all the
I
press,
think
right?
He's second in RBIs, right?
But yeah, he's batting in the spots in the order where you're expected to knock guys in, right? He's done it, and even and Suarez, as bad as his batting average has
He's
been,
got a lot of RBIs.
He's sort of done it. He's sort of having an Adam Duvall kind of season.
Well, he was batting 4 and 5 for the longest time, so
So,
you would think you
got these two
get
guys in
some
front of him.
hits every now and then. Yep.
Yeah, you're gonna knock in some runs, and he's hit a good. His home run number is
13, I think.
Been very respectable.
very respectable. Sure, I mean he's not.
He's either
Shohei
striking
Ohtani,
out
but-
or hitting a home run. It seems like.
Yeah. I made a lot more contact lately. I think. I think. I don't know. I think Suarez for this team. I said this the other day. For this team to get where it wants to go, you got to Suarez has to be part of it.
Yeah.
If you bench him and play a rookie, you're not really gonna get anything any better, and you're certainly not gonna get what Suarez could give you. So, I mean, he's done it. He's had too many good seasons to just
Agreed.
bail on him.
So what
But I-
happens when Moose comes back?
Good
That's
question.
a good question because Suarez hasn't been very good shortstop.
Or
So,
third right now?
That's a great question.
Well, the bench in any sport is a great motivator, right?
Yeah.
And I was glad to see, because it happened with Votto last year, I was glad to see that they sat Gino down for 2 games in a row. It's a great motivator, and we'll see. But I was wondering the same thing, Tom. When Moose comes back, what's going to happen?
I guess you got to move him to short, right? If they're
Suarez?
not going to bench
Yeah.
Suarez,
Yeah, I would play Suarez and Moustakas before I'd play Farmer all
I
the time.
don't know. I think India played third base, but he may have played shortstop in college. But you don't want to move him to short now. But the
No.
thing is, okay, do we put Moose to second, which is where he played last year quite a bit?
Yeah, it's that's a touchy thing to mess around with India.
I know.
You know, and India could be a guy who could completely handle it, but maybe not. So it's a good problem to have, as they say. You know, the outfield's crowded. You know, because Akiyama has at times swung the bat really well, but he didn't get to play a lot.
yeah, but I don't
And-
think you're going to mess with that outfield right now.
No,
I mean,
I wouldn't. No, you got 3 solid guys out there. So they're so Winker's DHing this week, at least tonight.
tonight it was.
They got Aquino in left field
So
tonight.
Aquino's playing left field. I mean, there's a guy too who, man, if you just let him go for a while, what might he become? So they seem deeper than they've seemed.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they're the deepest team in baseball by any means, but they seem deeper, and so I do like that. So Moustakas sometime after the break here is supposed to come back. Lorenzen somewhat. Senzel. I mean, Senzel becomes another like how does he get back? How does he get in the lineup? You know, you're able to take advantage of some lefty righty stuff. Some historical historical matchups of guys, and maybe some of those things help you win some games.
Give people a break, right?
Yeah, because the season gets long and hot, and you know, it's a long way to go. Long way to go. So here we sit, 43-40. We'll be 7 games out going into tonight.
Yeah.
The Brewers are playing as well as they can play. They're not going to keep winning every night, obviously. What do we play them? The end of this week and then right after the break, right? It's 7 straight games. Huge thing. If we come through that, not any worse off than we are, and maybe even a little better, are we and the trade deadline looms after that. I don't see this team as selling at all. I think
Well,
you're doing whatever you can to improve the bullpen.
if we go 1-6 against the Brewers,
then it might be.
yeah, because then we have 3 against the Mets, 3 against Cardinals, then 4 against the Cubs. You know, July is going to be that.
Yeah, July's feels make or break, doesn't
Yeah.
it? In a sense, feels super important because you know it's. I mean, you can say, well, every game counts. Well, yeah, but certain
August.
times of the season, you got to get yourself into position to have a shot, and they've got to do that.
Here's the if we can make do in July, if we can just hang tough, maybe 2, 3, 4 games above 500, and in July, which would be good. August gets way easier. August we have the Twins, the Pirates, the Indians, Braves, Phillies, and then Cubs and Marlins.
Yeah, and don't forget, didn't the Brewers in this streak play the Rockies and the Diamondbacks?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
so you know,
Oh,
Yeah.
well, there you go.
and,
that's part of it.
yeah.
Well, you know, you're supposed to beat those teams.
Yeah.
And, you know, and
But
yeah,
you know,
these
what
7
are
games
we
with the
going to do with, you know, if we become sellers, Castellanos, you know, at the end of the year,
he has
an option.
He has an option to leave. Yes.
Yeah. We're not going to get much for him
No.
because basically somebody's just going to rent him for 2 months.
They're going to get the same he's
Yeah.
going to take that same contract. He's going to take that contract with him.
Yeah. So I don't think if we can hang tough here, you know, I think I'd hate, you know, if we let go of Castellanos, I think the fan base would turn.
Well, isn't it a player option?
very
It's not.
rancid.
Is,
It's
is
a player option.
It's
So
a player option.
For next year.
He means
But if
trade him at the
Trade him at the deadline.
At the deadline. That's what he's talking about.
yeah, I mean, what would that do to you as a Reds fan?
I know.
I'd be,
You know?
I'd be disappointed. I'd be like, okay, so maybe we won't win it this year, but he seems to like it here. Talk him into staying, and maybe next year, you know, don't give up on. It's like you're giving up on.
Right.
It's not if you do that, you're not only just giving up on this year, you're giving up at least on another year.
Well, forget short term. Go a little bit longer. A guy like Winker is going to say, "Why do I want to play here?
Yeah.
If you're going to do this,
Yep.
you're spinning wheels."
Yep.
And so it's to me, it's like the commitment level to your star players or someone trade. That's why we were I was so surprised when Moustakas came, Castellanos came. It's like, okay, good vibes. And unfortunately, Moustakas hasn't stayed healthy enough, but to me, that's concerning. Where would a guy like Winker want to go, or in the short term, Castellanos?
Yeah. Well, you look at 2024. So that's okay.
After this year, 2 more years.
2 more years. So you look at 2024. That's a club option year for Votto, and they're not going to pay $20 million to him.
No.
Now he might stay for less, or he might retire, but they're not paying him $20 million. And Castillo, Winker, Molly, Garrett all become free agents after 2023. So I think your point is well made. Of like, if we do that and we just sort of tread wire for the next couple of years and haven't really done everything we can, why stick around? If indeed these 4 guys play themselves into position to go out and get a big contract. They have to perform to be able to do that. But if they do, why? I agree. Why stay? Why stay? I mean, Bauer left because he got offered the moon.
Yes.
So you can't blame him for that. No. But anyway, so what do we need to add? Do we know if we're going to add something? Typically, if you add, what do? You trade prospects for the guys who have, not the friendliest contracts in the world, is usually what happens. Or you make these type minor moves and put somebody in your bullpen that can work for you. Whose phone is that?
I thought I was on mute.
Is that Bob Castellini calling us for advice?
The umpires just came out and checked Genret for sticky substances.
So I don't know. I think it's a little early to maybe. I thought I'd put that question out there, but
I read an article that said that the bullpen would be the logical place they would add to, but when you look at who's out there to get, is it really better than Antone or Lorenzen would be? And it's not. So they don't expect the Reds to do anything.
That's always the thing. Can you better yourself? If you can't really better yourself, and then fans get impatient. Why don't they do anything? Why don't they do anything? Well, it's
who's out. Who's going to be out there?
Right? I know.
Yeah.
The only guy that's going to be out there is a guy who's good, who doesn't have a friendly contract, who's on a team that's out of the race.
Yeah.
That's
pretty narrow.
And that becomes a narrow thing, right? As far as, because if they're out of the race, the teams that are out of the race, there's not a whole lot of good players on those teams. There's always a couple, but okay, all right. So this division, feel like we have to win the division because the West is so loaded.
Seems like it.
Feels that way. They're farther out. They're farther behind the Brewers than they are the Padres, but still feels like division's your best bet. The Reds by far have the best offense so far in the division. As I talked about earlier, Brewers have the best pitching. The Cubs, I don't know what's going on with them. I mean, they've either been really good or really bad. Haven't they had they had that. They threw that no-hitter and they've lost 9 games since they threw that no-hitter.
But the games against the Reds were really tight. So they aren't getting blown out.
They're not bad. They're just not. But they run really hot and really cold. The Reds sort of
losing Schwarber really hurt them. Schwarber's having a great year for the Nationals.
Yeah,
they miss him a lot.
I agree. The Cubs could be a team, could be a seller. If things don't turn around for the Cubs in the next 4 weeks, if all of a sudden they're 12 or 13 games out, Javier Baez,
go get Rizzo. He can room with Garrett.
I'm sure they would.
Yeah, I'm sure they get along great. So that's is this? Do the Brewers? Here's a question I'll ask you guys. Kim, you start this one. Do the Brewers seem uncatchable?
I would say no.
Okay.
You take out They've won 11 in a row. They're up by 7 over the Reds, right? It's easy to say, wow, it's going to be hard to catch them because they won 11 in a row. But take that out, and, I do not believe they're uncatchable, no.
Okay. All right. What do you see as what's their weakness? I mean, offensively they haven't produced like they have at times in the past. The offense has carried them, but that's not happening this year. What do you guys think?
Are there? I don't know a lot about their staff, their pitching staff. Is this an anomaly year for some of these guys?
Well, a little bit.
Are they pitching out of their behinds?
Well, Woodruff and Burns are still fairly young, and they're just maybe realizing their potential possibly. Now Freddie Peralta, I feel like is pitching over his head more than those guys are, because he's been around a little longer and he's never been great. This feels like his one great season maybe in his career. Can he continue that? I don't know. So, what do you think, John?
Well, who's to say that the Reds can't have a run like that?
Yeah.
I mean, we're pretty streaky.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we've got 4 of them down right now.
It'd be a real good time to get really hot, especially playing them. I think it's the recurring kind of theme here. This next
2 weeks ago, there was a log jam in the Central.
Yeah.
And, us, the Cubs, Cardinals.
Well, we were good,
Brewers?
6-7 games behind the Cardinals, and then in a matter of 10 days, we were ahead of them.
Yeah.
Cardinals have fallen off the face of the earth.
I think we're a streaky team. We can put together something like that and, be right back in it.
You do have to like that the thing that we struggle with the most, we are getting some people back to help us with that.
Yeah.
As opposed to if we were struggling hitting, not having anybody come back.
Right.
Yeah.
I
feel like
last year was look at the hitting last year. Now look at what we're doing.
Right.
I mean, this is what we expected to happen last year.
Right.
And too bad we don't have the pitching from last year.
Yeah, I mean, the pitching, like I think Kim was right. I mean, the starting pitching has been good. Has it been as dominant as last year? No, but it's not the reason they're only 40. The bullpen's the reason they're 43-40.
Right.
We can fuss about. We can talk about Suarez not doing his being himself. We can talk about injuries to other guys and other guys having waiting for rookies to come along. We can talk about a lot of stuff like that. But in the end, the bullpen's been the biggest problem. But
you keep waiting for Suarez to catch fire.
Yeah.
And
He's 30 points from the Mendoza line.
Right.
I think
and this is how he hit last year.
I know.
So you keep waiting, and then it's like, whoa, maybe there's something seriously wrong here.
Yeah, I don't know.
There's a guy, if there was a great reliever out there to get, you might consider moving.
Suarez? Yeah.
But there's not. There's not a reliever to get.
If there's a guy that could get traded, I think it's him, because you've got enough other guys to fill those positions.
Right.
And you've got Jose Barrero or Jose Garcia last year, Jose Barrero now. He's on the horizon.
He's in the Futures All-Star game.
Yeah, I don't think he's ready to really help him this year, but yeah, I mean, I could see a team saying, well, maybe Suarez can come over here and hit, and we need a corner bat. I mean, don't trade him to the Brewers, but but that'd be the worst comeback to haunt you ever.
Yeah.
But don't do that. But
maybe the Yankees.
they're struggling.
Yeah,
they're struggling. I mean,
they're always buyers,
but they're above 500. We say they're struggling. But
but Chapman's been terrible lately.
Oh, I know.
He made, I think his ERA was under 1 like 3 weeks
It's
ago.
like 0.3 or something.
It's like
the worst stretch of his career.
And now it's like almost 5 or over 5.
Life of a reliever.
And he made the All-Star team.
That's our Chapman for it.
Yeah. So, anyway, okay. So, I don't think I didn't really answer my own question yet. I don't think by any means the Brewers are uncatchable. I think they have obvious weaknesses offensively. If the pitching gets a little, drops, is just not quite as good, it could cost them. And this hot stretch, like they haven't played very good teams. That's always a part of that. And so, but you're right, John. Going back to that schedule, a week from now, well, more than a week from now, almost 2 weeks from now, we'll know. Either we're kind of status quo.
Right.
We can't be any worse than status quo. If all of a sudden we're 10 or 11 out, then that feels too steep. But if we're 6 or 7 or 5 or 6 or 7 out after this 7 games with the Brewers, I'm like, we can catch these guys. So we'll see. As you know, I was the only one who predicted a winning record on this season, so we'll find out if I know what I'm talking about.
We're all rooting for you.
Well,
We are. Yeah, that's right.
Here's I was just looking at who the Brewers play in July besides us. So they play us, and then they play us. And they got the Mets, us again in the middle of the month.
Yeah.
Then the Royals, White Sox, and Pirates.
Well, the White Sox are tough.
Yeah.
And the Royals have a losing record, but they're not awful.
Just barely,
No, they're
right?
not.
They're
No,
like
they're
five-
about
they're like
13
five-
under, aren't they?
They're 13.
No, I think they're like 6 under.
Really? Okay.
I think.
But at least our last 3 games of the season are against the Pirates.
Yeah, that's right. Might need to win all 3 of them.
Yeah.
May not matter.
Yeah,
But-
let's see what who the Brewers play to wrap
Yeah,
up. They
Royals
play
are-
the Dodgers.
Royals are 35 and 48,
Yeah.
13 under.
Oh, are they?
Are they?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was looking at something. I looked at something else. I was looking at somebody else then. I wasn't looking at the Royals. Or I read the number wrong. I was wrong, Kim. You believe that?
Every dog.
Every dog has. You had your day. Has this been a fun baseball season, or
Mhm.
or has
Oh,
it
yeah.
been frustrating?
Oh no, they're in it.
Yeah.
So it's keeping
been
us
fun.
watching. If I could watch.
Yeah.
Well, we've had performances where we're leading the major leagues in scoring double digits. We've
Yeah.
scored a lot of runs. That's fun.
And
Yeah.
then we've been shut out 8 or 9 times or something like
well,
that, too.
see,
It's-
you're negative again.
No, I'm just pointing out the fact that I'm trying to build on your point. We have all these great games, double-digit runs, but then you look and say, well, but we've been shut out 8 times. So it would be nice to be a little more consistent.
2 guys going to the All-Star game,
Yeah.
starting. There's been a lot of good things.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and having rookies perform well,
Yeah.
Including Gutierrez, and Santiago wasn't bad. Now he's not going to stay in the rotation, obviously, with Gray back, but I could live with Gutierrez in the rotation the rest of the year. I don't
Well-
want to see Jeff Hoffman in the starting rotation. I can
Well,
tell
the
you
thing
that.
about these rookies is every game they pitch, the major league learns more about them. And
right,
it
well,
makes it harder and harder.
And they
It
learn
does.
more about how to pitch.
yeah, that's right. See there, Kim was just
Hey,
being
you
positive.
There you go.
Positive. Way to go,
Very
Tim.
nice.
Yeah.
Well, usually, whatever glass we're looking at, Tom sees it one way and Kim sees it the
Yeah.
It's either he's full and
Wait a
he's,
second,
and he's
though, but-
empty,
but
and either
lately-
he's empty and he's full.
Tom's like, hey, put the rookies in there. I just
Give him a shot.
road to Damascus experience, evidently.
It goes both ways for the pitchers. India started off hot.
Yeah.
The pitchers figured him out.
Yeah.
He made adjustments. India's come back.
He's hitting well.
Yeah,
Yep.
Rose
He did
always
change his stance. You're right.
Yeah.
Pete Rose always has a hard time with it. He said, I just don't understand how guys can, like Jay Bruce, how they can continue to, pitchers figure him out and they just continue to not be able to solve it year after year. Bruce was like that. He couldn't hit the outside pitch.
Well, part of the thing is Pete Rose was an unusually good mind for the game, and that's guys like that. I mean, he was a bit of a savant when it comes to that, and so not everybody's that.
Right.
I mean, physically, Jay Bruce probably had more physical talent than Pete Rose.
Right.
But you didn't have and nothing against Jay Bruce, but because I love Jay Bruce. He's one of my favorite Reds of the last 20 years. But, I think he just didn't have the same mind for the game that Pete Rose had. And that's why a guy like, if Pete didn't have the mind he had, he had physical tools, but he didn't have great physical tools.
Right.
So
Have you heard that story of Pete Rose when he got let out of jail? You guys heard that story?
maybe,
Remember, he was in jail for tax evasion,
yeah.
and Pete Jr. picked him up from jail, and Pete Sr. said, "I want to go to a batting cage."
Really?
Immediately. So it took him to a batting cage. He puts his dollar in for his 10 pitches, First pitch comes to Rose, hits a line drive up the middle, drops the bat, walks out and says, "I still got it."
I think
It was probably an 80-mile-an-hour pitch,
Yeah.
but still.
Was he
That's
batting
good.
lefty?
I don't know.
Don't have those details.
Yeah. So
Well, what was the pitching machine on the left side or the right side?
That's right.
they're usually right-handed. So, okay. Well, I don't think we have to worry about the Cubs could hang around. I think the Cardinals are pretty washed up, although it'd be just like the Cardinals.
Well, the Cubs
turn
were
around.
they were more than hanging around.
Yeah.
They would They've lost 9 in a row.
Yeah,
So
that's what I'm saying. I don't think they're washed up.
No.
I think they can still be a factor. A three-team race would be fun.
They
Tighten this
find
thing
a way,
up.
don't they, those daggone Cardinals?
Well, they do. I just sooner or later they're bound for a bad year, and I don't know. When you have as much pitching issues as they've had, it's amazing, really, that they're probably no farther down than they are. Who knows? They're probably winning tonight. So
And their run differential is minus 39.
who? The Cardinals?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like,
That's for sure. Yeah, they're not good. Not good. Okay. Well, anything else, guys? I feel like we've been very nuts and bolts tonight, but been a while since we got to do this. Hopefully we can get together 3 or 4 more times before the end of the season, find chances to do this. So
I'm sure our listeners are dying for us to come back.
I know. They're probably disappointed. I'm surprised I haven't been, hearing from them, but out of sight, out of mind, I guess.
everybody's been tweeting me to be back on the podcast. So.
Well, that should do it.
So, but John, glad you get to
Thank
keep
you.
watching them. Glad you were here. I do get to see him some when I'm covering the Dragons games. We usually have it on the press box, but I don't sit there and just watch it. I keep one eye on it here and there. So I see some stuff. And then nice thing, we were at the beach last week in North Carolina or 2 weeks ago, and my daughter Kelly has the MLB plan, MLB.TV plan. So she logged in with her account. I was able to watch the Reds quite a bit that week, and so anyway, we will be back and figure out what's going on. And I think when we return, we'll be discussing those first place Reds again. That would be sweet.
It would.
At least a close second.
Close the gap.
Close that gap. So anyway, I just say let's beat the Brewers. And
beat the Royals.
Beat the Royals this week. Beat the Brewers. Win 18 or 19 games in July, and see what happens. We'll give it a run. So
That's right.
all right. So we'll just say, as we always do, we'll finish off with
Go
Reds.